Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Karu News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And today's topic is not only current, but very, very relevant and very hot. But before I will go on my topic, that is Prime Minister's security, I would like to inform you that today the country is observing Lal Bahadur Shastri's death anniversary. January 11th marks the death anniversary of Shri Lal Bahadur Shastri. He was born on 2nd October 1904. He served as the second Prime Minister of India. He promoted the White Revolution, a national campaign to increase the production and supply of milk by supporting the Amul Milk Cooperative of Anand, Gujarat, and creating the National Dairy Development Board. Underlining the need to boost India's food production, Shastriji also promoted the Green Revolution in India in 1965. This led to an increase in food grain production, especially in Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh. He led the country during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1965. His slogan, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, hail to the soldier, hail to the farmer, became very popular during the war. The war formally ended with the Tashkent Agreement on 10th January 1966. He died on 11th January 1966 in Tashkent. He was posthumously awarded the Bharat Ratna. Media conference with Lal Goel pays its tributes to him. Today, India is also observing National Road Safety Day. 33rd National Road Safety Week is celebrated from 11th January to 17th January every year in our country, India, to create awareness about road safety and minimize road accidents and save life. At first, in the year 1989, awareness for the National Road Safety Week was celebrated, and at that time, about 36,000 had lost their lives. India is in the first position, comprising the highest accident deaths. Approximately 4,67,000 accidents were happening per year in India, and about 1,50,000 per year are dying of it. The National Road Safety Week 2022 theme is Sadak Suraksha Jeevan Raksha. Media conference with Lal Goel hopes that by observing National Road Safety Week, more and more awareness will be created so that many more lives can be saved. Now, coming to our main topic, that is Prime Minister's security. Before 1981, the security of the Prime Minister at their official residence was the responsibility of the Special Security District of the Delhi Police, overseen by an officer of the rank of Deputy Commissioner of Police, DCP. This model was adopted from the United Kingdom, where the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is protected by London's Metropolitan Police Service. In October 1981, a special task force, STF, was established by the Intelligence Bureau, IB, to provide transportation security and road escorts for Prime Minister during travel in and out of New Delhi. After the assassination of Prime Minister Mrs. Indira Gandhi by two of her Delhi police security personnel in October 1984, a review was undertaken by a committee of secretaries of the Ministry of Home Affairs. Given the breach, it was decided to entrust security of the Prime Minister to an exclusive unit under direct control of the STF to provide the Prime Minister with proximate security at all times. These decisions were initially taken as short-term measures. On 18th February 1985, the Ministry of Home Affairs set up the Birbal Nath Committee to examine the issue and submit recommendations to the government for prime ministerial security. In March 1985, the committee submitted its recommendation for the raising of an independent agency for prime ministerial protection known as the Special Protection Unit, SPU. On 30th March 1985, the President of India, by executive order, created 819 posts for the unit within the Cabinet Secretariat. The name of the unit was rechristened Special Protection Group, led by a director who would be an Indian Police Service officer with the rank of Inspector General of Police. S. Subramaniam, then the Joint Director VIP Security in the Intelligence Bureau, assumed office as the first director of the SPG. Initially, the establishment of the SPG necessitated a new distribution of responsibility to various agencies concerned with the security of the Prime Minister. With 819 posts, the new agency lacked the manpower to provide complete protection to the Prime Minister's person, office, residence, and dependents, and remained dependent on the Delhi Police and State Police units for logistics and transportation. The Blue Book, an existing manual for the protection of the Prime Minister, was amended to incorporate new proximate security protocols. Under the new arrangements on domestic visits, the Intelligence Bureau and concerned state police were responsible for coordination, collection, and dissemination of intelligence affecting the Prime Minister's security. State police and the SPG would then provide physical security arrangements for the Prime Minister in two layers. The SPG operated under the authority of its constituting executive order for 3 years without legislation from April 1985 to June 1988. That year, the Rajiv Gandhi government passed the Special Protection Group Act to codify the order's provisions. At the end, the act only permitted security for the Prime Minister and his immediate relatives. When Rajiv Gandhi left office in 1989, he ceased to receive SPG protection as leader of the opposition. This occurred despite the significant threat to his life following his government's military intervention in Sri Lankan civil war. In May 1991, Mr. Gandhi was assassinated at a political rally in Tamil Nadu by a suicide bomber of the Liberation Tigers of Tamil LM, a Sri Lankan terrorist organization. After his assassination, the SPG Act was amended to provide SPG security to former prime ministers and their immediate families for a period of 10 years after leaving office. Prior to the end of this period, a security review would be conducted by the Intelligence Bureau to determine a protectee's current threat and the need for extensions, which would last 5 years. For this reason, Gandhi's widow, Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, and her children, Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, received SPG protection for 28 years until 2019, owing to their political activity in the Indian National Congress. On 27th November 2019, the Parliament of India passed the Special Protection Group Amendment Act 2019, which limited SPG protection only to the Prime Minister and his immediate family members residing with him at his official residence. Under the amended legislation, former Prime Minister are eligible for an extension of their protection for up to 5 years after leaving office, subject to a threat assessment by the Intelligence Bureau. The bill was opposed by the Indian National Congress, fearing that the Gandhi family would face a greater risk of violence without SPG protection. After its passage, these individuals, along with former Prime Minister Mr. Manmohan Singh, Hiraben Modi and Jashodaben Modi, the mother and estranged wife, respectively, of incumbent Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi, lost SPG protection. They were instead accorded different levels of security ranging from Z+ to Y by the Ministry of Home Affairs. The bill reduced the SPG's legal protectees to Mr. Modi, who lives alone at his official residence. Mr. Narendra Modi, the incumbent Prime Minister of India, is currently the only person under SPG protection. The Act amended the SPG's legal mandate to protect the incumbent Prime Minister's parents, wife, and children, to immediate family members residing with the Prime Minister at his official residence. SPG protectees by law are exempt from personal security screening at all airports in India and may access VIP lounges at airports operated by the Airport Authority of India. Additionally, they are exempt from security screening when entering certain official buildings, including the Prime Minister's office and residence. The Prime Minister's motorcade comprises a fleet of vehicles, the core of which consists of at least 2 Mercedes Maybach S650 Guard, 3 armored BMW 7 Series sedan, 4 armored Range Rovers, at least 8 to 10 BMW X5s S Series, 6 Toyota Fortuners or Land Cruisers, and at least 2 Mercedes-Benz Sprinter ambulances. A Tata Safari electronic countermeasure car also accompanies the convoy, besides many more escort vehicles. Previously, one of 2 modified Boeing 747-400 passenger aircraft used otherwise for normal service would be utilized for the Prime Minister's overseas travel. However, in 2020, these were replaced with 2 customized Boeing 777-300ER aircraft with distinct national markings built in the United States along the lines of Air Force One. Additionally, for domestic flights, the IAF currently owns 4 14-seater Embraer 135 aircraft and 3 customized 46-seater Boeing business jet BBJ 737s that have a VIP cabin. Prime Minister Narendra Modi once used an Indian Air Force Lockheed C-130J during his visit to Sri Lanka. Mi-17 helicopters. The Defense Ministry has approved the conversion of 6 new Mi-17 V5s to replace the old Mi-8 helicopters with IAF's Communication Squadron to ferry the President and Prime Minister. M17 V5s have advanced avionics on-board navigation system and night vision devices. But in spite of all these securities, viewers, on January 5th, our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi's convoy being stuck for several minutes, approximately 20 minutes, on a flyover in Punjab. The Supreme Court on Monday, that is yesterday, said it would form a committee headed by a retired Supreme Court judge to conduct a time-bound and independent inquiry into the circumstances. So without going any allegations on SPG or on Punjab Police, I would like to listen from a very, very elite, very knowledgeable, well-experienced experts on this field panelist with us. And my first panelist, before I will go to my panelist, I would like to share some views raised by the very prominent police officers of the country. So I would like to just play a video. You just see it, and then I will go to our panelist. So first I will try to play the video.
I'll call it institutional blame, institutional failure on part of Punjab Police, because nobody acts in isolation in such serious matters.
इसके लिए दोष तो देखिए राजनीतिक नेतृत्व को और पुलिस नेतृत्व को देना पड़ेगा। एक पुलिस अफसर की हैसियत से मुझे शर्म आती है कि आज हमारी ये हालत हो गई कि हम प्राइम मिनिस्टर को स्मूथ पैसेज नहीं दे सकते।
इस देश की एक जबरदस्त असैसिनेशन से बच गए, बाल बच गया, क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री जी इतनी देर पुल पर रहे। पुल के नीचे कुछ भी आप एटम बम कर सकते हैं। इट्स नेग्लिजेंस ऑफ ड्यूटी, इट्स क्रिमिनल नेग्लिजेंस।
The Deputy Chief Minister of Punjab, he is on record of stating that it is an admitted fact that there was a lapse by Punjab Police.
I don't think SPG can be held responsible for this lapse. I feel that it was the fault of the Punjab police.
It is a shameful thing. We are a world power and our Prime Minister is held up on a flyover. The route should have been secured by the Punjab police much earlier.
पंजाब पुलिस का इकबाल अभी इतना कम हो गया है कि उनकी इजाजत के बगैर लोग बाग इतनी बड़ी संख्या में ट्रॉली लेकर सड़कों के ऊपर जुट गए, पूरा रास्ता रोक दिया। ये एक बहुत बड़ी चूक है और ऐसी चूक बिल्कुल भी स्वीकार्य नहीं है डेमोक्रेसी में।
So, viewers, you have seen the views expressed by the very, very senior police officers, former police officers, retired as a Director General of Police, and they have said very, very clearly that's a lapse on the part of Punjab Police. But we would like to hear from our expert panelist. So I would like to invite my first panelist guest, and he is Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, is one-man expert commission on labor to prepare an action plan for the welfare and development of the workforce in the context of COVID-19. He is also the principal advisor, National Heritage Project. He was former head of the Disaster Management Government of India and Central Drought Relief Commissioner Government of India. He was the Vice Chancellor of National Museum, University of Delhi. To his credit, 300 publications, including 45 books in English, Malayalam, and Hindi novels, short stories, and essays. 4 of his books have become bestsellers. One book of his on housing received prestigious the Sharjah International Book Fair Award. Dr. Bose is an housing expert, innovator, writer, orator, and visionary. The path-breaking institutions set up by him, such as Narmati Kendran Building Center, District Tourism Council, and Habitat Alliance, have been replicated at the state, national, and global level. He was the head of the prestigious Supreme Court Committee on the Treasurers of Sri Padma Swami Temple. Dr. Bose addressed United Nations General Assembly and specialized sessions 5 times on various international issues. Dr. Bose is a recipient of 31 national and international awards, including United Nations Global Best Practice Award. He also received prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru Fellowship. Kerala government termed him Lord of Ideas. Former Prime Minister Mr. Manmohan Singh called him inspired civil servant, and our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi called him Man of Ideas. Welcome, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, on our show. Dr. Bose, you were placed as a collector initially when you joined the IAS services, civil services. Then you were also the principal secretary to the chief minister in charge of the police department. Definitely, you are well aware about the VIP visits to the states, the VVVIP movements, and their security. We would like to know your views on the Prime Minister's security. Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. You said today is the Lal Bahadur Shastri Day and also the Road Safety Week. First of all, let me pay my reverential homage to the great memory of Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri. I will also share with all humility that I have been chosen as the recipient of the first Lal Bahadur Shastri Fellowship awarded by the National Institute in Missouri, that is IAS Academy. And about the second event, the Road Safety Week. It is very ironical that we have chosen this topic on the Road Safety Week when the Prime Minister's safety on the road is very weak. Who is to blame for this? When the Prime Minister of India is on the roads, who is in the dock? Not a blame game. But people are asking a question. If there is no security for the Prime Minister of this country, where else can the common man look up to for his security? What is the role of the state government? Are they mere weathercocks when democracy is challenged on the wayside? Are they just to look at it as mute witnesses? Are the security regulations, protocol, more honored in the breach than in the observance? What is the sanctity of Article 19 of the Constitution, which guarantees freedom of movement? How will the nation move when the Prime Minister himself is immobilized on the road? And what is the role of the Special Protection Group? Is it a bunch of white elephants who do not act when action is called for? No criticism, no backbiting. These are the questions which the common man asks. And as in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, when Julius Caesar was murdered, the crowd asked Mark Antony, "We shall be satisfied. Let us be satisfied," which means the public are willing to listen and be convinced, but they should be convinced. Somebody somewhere owes an answer to the common man who is asking these questions. Is democracy being trampled upon on the streets of India, the so-called largest democracy in the world? Who is responsible for this? As a humble civil servant who has been in the service for the last 45 years in some form or the other, I would say that the primary responsibility for the security of the Prime Minister lies with the state government. As all of us know, Punjab is responsible for this because it happened in Punjab. See, we flew over all norms of democratic propriety in the flyover incident which happened in Punjab. And what are the significance of this? It has international ramifications and national implications. What is the international ramifications? Punjab is a border state. You know, fomenting trouble in Punjab and dismembering the country is primary in the agenda of our enemy nations. Pakistan is always there to foment trouble in this country. It has international ramifications that way. National implications. Punjab is facing an election. This is the time when national leaders of various views will be visiting Punjab frequently. By intimidating the Prime Minister himself on the road, is Punjab giving the message to the outside world like the Emperor of China, tremble and obey? This is unfair. Certainly somebody has to answer for this. Who is responsible for the security of the VVIPs? The President, including the President and the Prime Minister? You know, as you already have stated, in 1988, the Special Protection Group was formed by an Act of Parliament. Then in 2019, it was amended to restrict their protection only to the Prime Minister. Now the question comes, everyone knows, as a district collector sometime for a few years, then he knows it was in his own district I was collector. Then, as Principal Secretary to the Chief Minister who was in charge of the police, I had the opportunity to handle a large number of VIP visits, including those of the Prime Minister. What is the Bible of VIP security in this country? Even before the act constituting the Special Protection Group was passed, we had the Blue Book. The Blue Book is sacrosanct as far as VIP visit is concerned. The Blue Book lays down clearly what are the steps to be taken. The formation of the motorcade, as you know, there will be advanced pilot car, which is a warning car. Then there is a technical vehicle, VIP car, the escort cars, the ambulance, then other mandatory cars, and also cars for the authorized authorities. That forms a cavalcade. And even as a measure of anti-sabotage measures, all vital installations on the road, culverts, bridges, everything will be inspected. There will be meetings of the central agencies and the state agencies. After elaborate preparation, only the VIP starts moving on the road. Now, are we to believe that the Punjab government was unaware of the fact that a large crowd of protesters are there? We saw the video. We see the policemen on the road. They were enjoying tea rather than controlling the crowd. One can suspect where the protectors aligning themselves with the protesters. This does not augur well for India. Punjab has failed. Punjab police has failed. That others have also failed is no excuse. The various stakeholders have to do some soul search. The common man wants it. With all these special protection group, the Blue Book, and the coordinated activities of the intelligence of the central government and the state government, is this the way the Prime Minister is to be treated? For 20 minutes, India's Prime Minister, the representative of 138 crores of people in the largest democracy in the world, is waylaid. Democracy is waylaid. Democracy has been taken over by mobocracy with the tacit support of the guardians of law. The moot question is, who is here to guard the guardians and custode the custodians? Somebody should own up the responsibility. And this is not the first time that it is happening. Even in the case of Narendra Modi himself, we know Hari has been in West Bengal. Hari will remember what happened in 24 Parganas, where the Prime Minister came to address a rally, a crowd. They broke the barricades. They rushed onto the podium where the Prime Minister was speaking. Providential intervention only avoided a stampede. But before they could enter the podium and stop the Prime Minister had to cut short his speech after 20 minutes, and the SPG guards whisked him away to safety. So this is not the first time. How came, a question is there, how came the Prime Minister of India? The Prime Minister of India is not a Prime Minister of a particular party. He represents the whole of India. How came the Prime Minister's security is threatened only in states where the opposition is ruling, whether it's Punjab or in Bengal? Now come to Kerala. In Kerala, when the Congress was in power in the center, the most respected Prime Minister of those days, Manmohan Singh, he came to Kerala. That is the time Kerala was ruled by the then opposition. Even now they are in power. He was taken to an uncharted route by a driver. Then the trivia in the political lines and the media, they said, what's so important if there is a traffic error when the Prime Minister is there? There is. You know that the First World War was started because of security lapse. Archduke Ferdinand of Austria was to visit Bosnia. Some conspirators had decided to finish him off. They were on the route with a loaded pistol. The first one got panicky when he saw the Ferdinand's motorcade. He jumped into the river out of fear. The third man fired at the prince, but somehow it did not touch him. When he came for the function in the city hall, he gave the indication, is this the way that you receive your guest? The mayor did not know what happened. Then somebody said, yes, there was a firing on the way. Nothing happened. Then they decided to change the route, as is always done. If there is a threat, they go to a different route. The new route was taken, but the mayor did not know the change in the security route. He told the driver to turn the car and go in the original route, because we did not know of the change of route. The car took a reverse, and lo and behold, There was one killer who saw to his delight that unexpectedly the prey is in front of him in point blank range. He shot and Archduke was killed. His wife was killed. That started the First World War. Therefore, a small traffic accident or security lapse is not a small thing. There are many instances where even recently, when the president's carcade was going on in Trivandrum, the local leader, city leader, thought that their car could be crashed into the motorcade or street crash into the motorcade. Is it admissible in a democratic setup? We are a federal country. The Prime Minister's protection is a duty of all. The primary responsibility for the protection of the Prime Minister lies with the state government. Only an impartial inquiry can bring out the truth in this, the fact of their case. But this does not augur well for anyone. If the Prime Minister of this country does not have security, how can the 38 crores of people have security with them? Something is rotten in the state of Punjab. Something is rotten in the state of Bengal. Something is rotten in the state of Kerala. I am singling out these because these are the areas where lapses took place. This does not mean other states are absolved of their responsibility. There is a need for us to rethink on this. Our Prime Minister, the nation's Prime Minister, he represents the will of the people. If the Prime Minister is waylaid, somebody has to be put in the dock. We have to put an end to this, and we hope the apex court will find a way out for this. This cannot happen. We have instances where the ministers, central ministers, are humiliated in the states. Is this the way India wants to run its democracy? Democracy shall never degenerate into democracy. We have to begin from the beginning. Yes, we have to review the security arrangements for our VVIPs and also for the nation. Now, in all my respect to my colleagues in the Special Protection Group, as you know, the SPG, they are recruited from the bravest and the brightest among all the police services in the country, from the VSF, CRPF, CISF, ITBP and others. They are the bravest and the brightest. Then how came that they could not provide protection? About the Holy Roman Empire, it is said they are neither holy nor Roman, nor was it an empire at all. Should people start asking the question? The Special Protection Group, there is nothing special about them. They do not protect. Then how can they be guardians? These kinds of questions should not arise. But we should realize that people need an answer. People need a foolproof arrangement. It is not enough that something is written in the blue book. It is not enough that something is there in the legislation. When the need comes, there should be action, not an alibi for inaction. I am not blaming them, but this is a time for a mid-course correction. This is a time for soul searching. India's security, VIP security, Prime Minister security has to be sacrosanct, should be made effective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bose, for giving your views, very, very strong views, and has to be because, of course, because Mr. Modi is not the Prime Minister of a particular party, he's the Prime Minister of India. And we are rather the largest democracy of the world. And if we cannot give protection to our own Prime Minister, then how we are claiming? We claim we are one side, we are becoming, and in many fields, we are the global leaders, and that this, where the Prime Minister, our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi's security is concerned, it has become like a blame game. And this is very, in my opinion, it's not at all in a good taste. Whether it's a fault of Punjab police or the SPG, they should accept their failure in the very first instance, and their heads to be rolled. Why the Supreme Court intervention is required when these things can be done? And it's a very, very clear thing. Both the faults lies with the both, as Dr. Bose has mentioned very, very clearly. The main fault is of Punjab police. because they could not provide, and their own police people were drinking tea along with the protesters. This clearly shows the hand in glove attitude of them, as well as fault lies with the SPG also. They have a clear mandate. They have a clear mandate to safeguard the Prime Minister. They are not supposed to keep the motorcade on the flyover for 20 minutes, and especially when it is very near to the Pakistan border. In my opinion, the fault lies maximum with the Punjab police, but the fault lies also with the SPG. They should have not allowed. Their mandate is very clear. Their mandate is not only to keep Prime Minister safe in the peaceful areas or at the house, but especially a place like Punjab, which we all know, and is because of the proximity of the Pakistan border, we know how Pakistan is deadly against us, and especially to our Honorable Prime Minister. The SPG should have acted immediately and should have taken a decision either to open the fire or use the force or taken back the Prime Minister immediately, but not allow Prime Minister to stay 20 minutes on the flyover. Thank you very much, Dr. Bose, for giving your very, very enlightening views. Now, I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he is Mr. M. Harisen Verma, IPS. Mr. Verma is of 1985 West Bengal cadre batch. He worked in various capacities in West Bengal till 2004 when he joined Government of India. He was SP of Birbhum district and North 24 Parganas district, which was the largest district in India in terms of population. He served as United Nations Police Monitor in Mozambique in 1994. From 2004 till 2019 December, when he retired, he worked under Ministry of Home Affairs in Delhi, Tiruvandrum, Agartala, and Chennai. He is a recipient of UN Peacekeeping Medal in 1994, Indian Police Medal in 2001, President's Police Medal in 2009, and Ati Utkrisht Seva Padak in 2020 post-retirement. He has written a 500-page analysis on Gita in Malayalam, which was published by DC Books. He is continuing research, study, and writing on Gita. He has also published several poems, short stories, and articles in Malayalam and in English. Welcome, Mr. Harisen Verma on our show. Mr. Verma, you being an IPS officer, you were posted on different places in West Bengal, and afterwards you joined the Government of India and Ministry of Home Affairs. Definitely, you have handled so many VVIP visits in different parts of India, not only West Bengal, but different parts of India. And you are well aware about the security position of VVIP movements, and especially the Prime Minister's movement. And you also know the role of state police as well as the SPG. And you have heard what Dr. C.V. Anand Bose has mentioned. He blamed Punjab police, but he has also raised a question on SPG. We would like to know now your views on Prime Minister's security. Mr. M. Harisen Verma, please.
Good morning, Mr. Bose. Thank you so much for calling me for this discussion. Good morning to Sri Bose and also Colonel Saib, who are my co-panelists. Actually, this issue of PM security, it is one of the most sacrosanct acts to be performed by any police officer or any intelligence officer, because for this, there is no quarter given. We have to mobilize the maximum number of people. We have to follow each rule, instruction, literally, not only in spirit, but in letter. And arrangements are made well in advance. As Dr. Bose sir told, there are several discussions done in several levels. Not only in the district where the BBIP, when this Prime Minister comes, or in the state level also, even the Chief Secretary himself takes at least 2 meetings, calling all stakeholders, including the state PWD, Electricity Board, or the Fire Brigade, and whoever are concerned. And if the Prime Minister goes to a particular place, in a private place also, the people there, they are also called. Threadbare discussions are done. and about security, there are separate discussions. So then for the central, all these central agencies are also involved. So there are very clear-cut, rules and rule book, like the blue book, Dr. Bosar already told. And then there are several other rules and experience. Each of the experience is tabulated. There are observations after each visit and by different agencies. And these are all tabulated, and we are learning from experience also. So here I would like to say, like the one instance Dr. Bosar told in Trivandrum, I know about that. There was Dr. Manmohan Singh's convoy had taken a wrong route. I mean, just taken means there's a circle. If I remember correctly, there was a roundabout, and he was supposed to round that roundabout. I mean, the driver, instead of rounding, he made last minute. He made some mistake and he turned it to the and to the left side to the the route which was not to be taken. Immediately it was stopped and it was all corrected. But that was a serious security lapse. So, but we learned from that, and why it happened. We understood then that the driver was a private driver. The vehicles were all private vehicles, which are hired for the Prime Minister's visa. And this driver was, it was not the Prime Minister's own vehicle. It was the vehicle which was going further. I think it was perhaps the escort vehicle from the, not the main car, top 4 or 5 vehicles are called the most important, are considered to be most important Prime Minister's vehicle and the escort vehicles. And this vehicle was going in the advance. Not the advanced pilot. It was a one vehicle before the Prime Minister, if I remember. So the 1 or 2 vehicles ahead of him. So this was a private vehicle and the private driver. So then this was hired from the tourism, private means tourism department and all. I mean, not exactly private vehicle, not a police vehicle. The government vehicles only, but they were a hired, private driver. Government hired vehicle, not full government. So then we learned from that. After that, it was changed. Means vehicles were still tourist department vehicles hired by tourist department. The driver was always then made as a police driver. Because I was in the central agency then, not in the police. But the mistake was of a person. There was a carcade rehearsal. Even before that, maybe 1 or 2 carcade rehearsals. Exactly he was following. There he lost his nerve or some mistake happened. See, individual mistake can happen. So we cannot blame a whole organization or all organizations on that. I know that visit also, and on several other visits, I have attended a lot of visits. So there people with utmost sincerity and dedication work. Every single constable on the road, to the DGP and the central agencies, from the small lowest to the highest, everybody at SPG, they very dedicatedly work and round the clock even, and several days in advance onwards. So then even after doing all these things, if a mistake happens, then we are learning. I want to tell Mr. Goel that after doing everything very sincerely, after complying with all the rules and regulations, if a mistake happens, say, nobody can predict if every rule was followed than that instance. I want to compare that instance with this. So then only we will learn. Everything was followed, everything was correct. The mistake was of a person. And that person was the mistake was in the planning earlier. Earlier also tourism department vehicles were hired and with their private drivers. So that was the serious mistake, and when it's a police driver, things change because police are very disciplined. From training onwards, police officers police drivers even are much more disciplined. So we learn. Now in this particular instance, can we learn anything? I mean, here if this incident had happened even after most sincere efforts, then we would have learned something. Now here it is. I can say that it is a careless negligence. It's a conscious irresponsibility and utter incompetence. As a police officer, I can say. So here we are not really learning. Well, we are learning only a few things. Of course, we are still learning also. Everything teaches us. That I will tell in the end what we are exactly learning. But we are not learning anything about the rules, regulations, or the arrangements or the practices we are doing. There's no fault in all these things. Certainly, there must have been discussions, meetings, arrangements made. The Prime Minister was supposed to go by the helicopter. And whenever Prime Minister goes by helicopter, by the air, alternate arrangements or contingency arrangements, contingency route is called, are made. Always. It is made in advance. The area, as I told, the area is checked. Every place the Prime Minister goes, every room is checked far in advance, several times. So there are this advanced, something called advanced security liaison. That is done by the, before the Prime Minister visit. There may be once or even more also visit. Advanced security liaisons are done. They are the senior officers of the state police, the intelligence bureau, the SPG. They participate. Sometimes the SPG will be there, and this yes, SPG officers also will be there. But the police and the intelligence people will go separately also, even before that also. So everything is meticulously checked, including the route, the contingency route also. So every nook and corner, as Dr. Bosa told, every culvert is taken into account and arrangements made. And then there's rehearsals. Their final rehearsal will be there, and before that, separate rehearsal will be there. The final rehearsal, every nook and corner arrangement will be exactly like what will be done after 2 days when the Prime Minister actually comes. And the senior officers up to DG level and from central agencies, they all visit and they interact with this even up to the constable level. And then they or the SP level, section in charges will be there, SP level of a route. They will all interact with the local each police and ask them, what are you supposed to do? And brief them, take from them what they have understood, and then correct it. So this is all to be done. This is all in the route. If somebody doesn't do it, say I am a particular police officer, after nailing everything, and after doing this thing in the rehearsal also, last minute, if suppose I do not turn up into one place or stand in a 20 meters away. So then, it's the duty of the higher officers to check up before the Prime Minister comes. He has to again go on the route and check up. Suppose he also fails. So then, in fact, it is a wonder. I don't know. I am wonderstruck how the whole area, that hardly any police officer. Maybe they were in some corner earlier. The long route was quite long. But why in that when the protesters were there? I will make I'll number each of these failures. Number one, there is a intelligence, lack of intelligence. We cannot. On that particular instance, there seems to be a lack of intelligence. I am not very sure. But before that, I am getting media reports that there were intelligence reports that the farmers' unions were planning to block or show protest to the Prime Minister carcade, a convoy. And Prime Minister was supposed to go by air at that place. Wherever he was supposed to land later, there was supposed to be protest. So this is should have put a red alert in the minds of all the police officers. So then on that particular day, when the alternate route was practically accepted, was taken to put into use, this is always done with the permission of the police. I heard that, I understand that the SP of the district himself was, he is supposed to be in the convoy. He was leading the convoy. That is the media report. I am not very sure how it can be, whether it's as an advanced warning car or advanced pilot, whether he was dealing. Actually, SP and the collector, they are supposed to be in a car in the convoy, behind a few cars behind the Prime Minister. Before him, before the SP and the collector, there are Chief Secretary and DGP in a car. And before that, there will be other officials who are all concerned with the Prime Minister's security. And overall, in every vehicle or pilot and all, there will be SPG people. Now, why this inputs that there was some collection of people there was not relayed to the carcade. So the carcade could have stopped a few, maybe a kilometer away from the protesters. How the carcade was allowed to come up to the protesters? That's one point, number one. Number two, how many people were protesting? I mean, first of all, the first point I am telling that the info about the protesters was not given at all. It was there. The Prime Minister need not have started from there, or he could have found another way. Once he started, this input could have been given that yes, the protesters are there. Maybe the protesters came after he started. So then it could have been given that they are in particular place. So stop 1 kilometer if you, or another more convenient place, not in a flyover. It's highly risky, as it has been told already. Number three, even if there are protesters, are we powerless? I have dealt with mobs, lakhs of mobs, I can say. In the Salt Lake Stadium, I know, in Calcutta, Salt Lake, there 1.25 lakhs is the capacity of the crowd. Of course, the football matches and all, but then there are a lot of issues involved. The Mohan Bagan, East Bengal, Mohammedan, each has strong fan support, and there can be anything up to stabbing, everything. And we have done duty there with say around 800,000 people, police. So police, it's not that, in many media discussions, people say we are outnumbered. So we will be, so police could not do anything. It's not like that. Those, I have done umpteen number of law and duties, umpteen number of BBAPs. I can say with authority of experience that to clear a crowd of 10,000, we don't need even 100 policemen, maybe, or 200 policemen, maybe enough. Only we have to act. So there's that, and nature of the crowd also will be there. And for that, police has been given all instruments also. So prior arrangement has to be done accordingly. Now, if there is input that the protesters will gather in one place, this is the next failure. Why they were not prevented before reaching that place? They could have been stopped on the way. They could have been arrested on the way also. On some way or other, we could have collected that intelligence about that. And then suppose finally they managed to come to the route, then we could have cleared them at no time, maybe in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But I am understanding, I'm hearing from again the media that the police, before taking action, consults the political executive. I have never consulted any political executive for taking action on the field, because that is my professional duty. If I have to clear by lathi charge, I will do it. If I have to fire, I have fired also. So this is how a professional police officer should work, according to me. But here, I have many places I'm hearing that is the real cause of this problem. I'm coming to the root cause. The political leadership's clearance is required, not only for firing, not only, but also for this, even for starting a lathi charge. The police force has become highly, under the, highly unprofessionalized and like caged parrot, and tied within the cage also, not even within the cage. So why it was not, the protesters were not cleared? They could have been cleared. I'm seeing from the videos that it's not a big crowd. It could have been cleared easily. I mean, even if it is a big crowd, it could have been cleared. So these are all series of failures are there. And about the intelligence, I will tell that this type of intelligence regarding law and order it is basically the work of the state special branch, not the intelligence bureau. I mean, of course, intelligence bureau also, if it gets such inputs, it would definitely share about the Prime Minister visit. But again, only the committee which will be working now as per the Honorable Supreme Court's order can find out whether there was really an intelligence failure or there was intelligence input, but it was not acted upon. It could that also. There may not have been any single intelligence failure also. Even state special branch may have provided the input. But if you don't act on it, and then you say it's the intelligence failure, it's wrong. So here, it's possible that, as per the media reports, that the state police did not dare to act against these protesters. And at the same time, they did not inform the Prime Minister's convoy. It seems to, because their own officers, the convoy officer will be there. So he could always, he's controlling the convoy's movement. The SP controls the, not the SPG. SPG is probably meant for the proximate security of the Prime Minister. I'd like to clarify a few points here. It's for close protection of the Prime Minister only. The route or the protection outside the close proximity is all by the state police. So overall, security responsibility lies with the state police. So here, to blame SPG for, say, lack of intelligence is wrong. All intelligence has to be collected basically by the state police. And again, to blame SPG for having brought Prime Minister to this place, it is also wrong. Certainly, the SPG has moved. I mean, the convoy has moved, led by the state police. At least SP level officer, there may be officers of higher level also should have been there. And then that's not SPG's fault. SPG does not know. This was not, and alternate route was, convergence route was not, done autocratically by SPG. It was decided jointly a few days back by all these agencies, and arrangements done. Written arrangements are made. And advanced security liaison also return and the copies are sent to all concerned in the state police, state administration, and all relevant points are shared with each of the agencies, and it's checked up whether it is carried out before the visit. So to blame, when we blame, we cannot blame carte blanche. I mean, carpet everybody. We cannot blame. I don't think we cannot blame intelligence failure unless it is proved that there was no input. If it is proved that there was input, it was not acted upon. It's not intelligence failure, and it was to be acted upon by the Punjab police and not SPG. So let's be clear about it. So. If there's a mistake somewhere and we blame everybody, then we are not finding we are not improving. We should pinpoint and find out the root cause of it. And then yes, what as Mr. Goel told, once the convoy reached the flyover and the protesters were standing very near, some say up to 8 feet near the convoy. Near the Prime Minister's car, as per the video shown. So then, yes, as you told that the SPG should have gone back. So now I have a few little take on this. One thing is that people say it's 20 minutes, maybe if some other told 15 minutes, maybe 15 or 20. But once the convoy reached, it was sudden for the SPG also that they were thought that there will be blockade. Because they go with the belief that the state police has sanitized the whole thing. And the media reports are there, even DG has cleared this route also. I mean, certainly other police officers has cleared, SP level officer was also there, supposed to be. Now, suddenly this happened. So, it's possible that the state police officers were there, they were trying to, again, talk to the crowd and allow a passage. So that may take a few minutes. So maybe immediately to turn the convoy and go back, and leaving the program of the Prime Minister, then therefore that, it is not SPG alone. I mean, he has to consult the BVAP also and take a decision. Maybe a few moments were lost, but maybe yes, they could have taken away from the flyover. Maybe that has to be, now checked by the committee whether there was a fault on the part of SPG. I am not absolving anybody. It's possible, but the bulk of the fault lies with the Punjab police. And which officer we don't know. And again, there's a mistake of the, a fault of the Punjab political executive and other bureaucratic executive also. The chief secretary and the DGP are supposed to travel along with the Prime Minister. Why they were absent? Even Chief Minister, who is the Home Minister, should have traveled also, should have been there to receive also. So he was absent. And then, all this has to be checked up and why it happened. It's a thorough, incompetent mistake, and it is not the failure of the system. The system and rules and blue book, everything is fine here. See, it is not their failure. It's the failure in implementation. So it has to be checked up and forth. And one part we are learning, as I told, if everything is sincerely carried out and if something happens, then we are learning. The BVIP visit is something we used to say, Mr. Goel, often that only once we have to fail. Once we fail and gone, the BVIP life is at risk, it's gone. So then, but for the other side, against whom we are making all these arrangements, the anti-national forces, the terrorists. So for them, they have to win only once. They can fail every day. And I know, as I was in West Bengal, as you told, for long 17, 18 years. Then I was in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Tripura, as well as in Pondicherry Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep also altogether 14 years there. So such a long period, everywhere we have done a lot of prime minister visits. I mean, from the planning, execution, everything. As I know, in the organization I was working, we had a lot of responsibility for all these things, implementing and finding any fault in that. And I was always traveling with the prime minister in the carcade or helicopter, everything, and mandatorily. So I know about this, and but if sincerely carried out, then we will learn something. Here is callousness, and why this callousness? Because the politicization of the police, the police has been made. I like other branches of the government also totally at the mercy of the political executive. This should not be like that. I mean, there should be a tenure protection, and there should be more stringent rules for selection of officers as DGP or SP and all. There should be more checks and balances. I mean, it cannot be all free for all for police. I agree, but there should be much more reforms already well studied. The suggestions are there in the national level, National Police Commission and several other commissions or committees have told, but none of them have been, it has been hardly implemented, and only a few has been implemented in letter little bit. But then Sri Prakash Singh you showed in the video, our very esteemed senior colleague, he had moved the Honorable Supreme Court, and the Honorable Supreme Court gave ruling on this. But that rulings are almost hardly implemented. So unless these things are done, the topmost level of the policing, they will go to the politicians. That's why, as Dr. Bose told, why this is happening in the states ruled by the opposition, because the answer is clear. So this can happen later also in another dispensation also. So we have to find out, not blaming individuals. That is the problem of the system here, not the system of VVIP protection rules and regulations, everything. That is all in place, but this system has become so rotten that even for when open aggression is done by a crowd in front of police officer, he is telephoning the political executive, he's waiting for the political executive or the local political executive, whoever may be, to get his sanction to do any action. So this has to stop, and our collective conscience should be like that. Instead of blaming police and all, then finishing it, we should go for grassroots reforms in police, and also in with all the experts' opinions, reports lying in the dust for police reforms, bringing it out and really start implementing. Unless this is done, this type of things may occur more and more as the period, in a more worse form as time goes. So this is what I have to tell.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Hyacinth Verma, for giving complete details from the police types, how the police failed, what the action SPG would have taken, etc., etc. But only my point is, we understand that there is a total failure of police. They should have removed them. They should have lathi charged them. If they say the protesters you cannot remove, then what is the use of the police? That is first. But still, I have one reservation for SPG, that after all, it's a question of the safety of our Prime Minister. How they have allowed, and especially on a flyover where the exit and entry can be stopped by anyone. So our Prime Minister was on the flyover. That is a very, very matter of concern. And they should have acted very, very fast. What alternate arrangement they should have made, I think, I don't know. I'm not expert, but I'm sure now our next panelist will give some light whether they should have allowed one helicopter accompanying the convoy somewhere nearby, so that in case of such type of emergencies in future, he should be airlifted. Yes, Mr. Verma wants to say something.
Goel, this was an unexpected thing. This helicopter was to take off due to climatic conditions, it could not take off. And then this alternate route, which was already fixed, was taken. And then it was allowed by the Punjab police, all clearance given. And this news of the protesters gathering there was not given to them. So, I mean, just be practical. So once we reach there, it's total 20 minutes. In that 20 minutes, Prime Minister's convoy is long. I have been in that, I can tell you, to reverse all this thing in a place and go out, it takes time. Total is 20 minutes for all this. I understand that immediately the SPG might have taken the vehicles. Maybe one single shot you are showing that SPG were standing. They may stand a few minutes. The other vehicles of the state police, they were discussing with the protesters or trying to convince them. A few minutes, humanly it's possible, maybe 5 minutes. That shot was taken at that. But maybe within the next 10-15 minutes, the whole carcade was taken out. Reversed and taken out. That's the whole time taken, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So we cannot blame too much.
No, I understand. I understand, Mr. Verma.
I shouldn't blame one. You blame you for too
No,
fast.
I'm not blaming. But see, I'm really concerned about the life and safety of our Prime Minister. I will tell you one thing. I have attended the NSG's raising day at Mandsaur. They have their raising, and I have seen how the NSG guards act, because even it's something unexpected. They are trained, and SPGs even one step further than the NSG. They were trained to handle. First thing. Secondly, when they were aware that they are going to a state which is ruled by the opposition with their previous, as you said, you always learn from the previous happenings. They should have learned that what happens when you are going to a state which is ruled by the opposition. You should be more cautious. I'm not saying that we are blaming that opposition do like this. Anyway, thank you very much, Mr. Verma. I will come back to you with a question. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he is Colonel S. Dini, retired. Colonel Dini is a contemporary writer now based at Kollam. He served as an Indian Army Infantry Rajput Regiment officer for more than 20 years. He has first-hand combat operational experiences after having served in multiple tenures in Kashmir Valley, Northeast India, and along the line of actual control in Ladakh. In Kashmir, he served for 8 years, both along the line of control and in Rashtriya Rifles. He served as a military observer with the United Nations in Congo. He commanded an infantry battalion at Pongong, so for 2 years. After command of battalion, he was nominated for the prestigious Higher Defense Management course. He was posted as a faculty in Defense Services Staff College, DSSC, Wellington, Tamil Nadu. He took voluntary retirement from the army. His master's in Defense and Strategic Studies from Madras University. He completed a graduate certificate course in Strategic Studies from Takshila Institution, Bangalore. He undertook the Kauchalya Fellowship Program with India Foundation. Currently, he is pursuing MPhil in Defense and Strategic Studies from Madras University. He contributes articles in many publications as well as on digital media such as dinalipi.com, Swarajya, The Print, Rediff.com, USI Publications, moneycontrol.com, and Malayalam newspapers. Participates in various panel discussions on English, Hindi, and Malayalam TV channels and also online websites. Colonel Dini, you have heard Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, as well as Mr. M. Harisen Verma, IPS. Both have given very, very clear views of their and very strong views about this lapse of the Prime Minister's security happened on 5th January. Now, you being from Army, Armed Forces, and you know the Army, Navy, and Air Force are the ultimate bastions of the national security. And from the point of the view of the national security, what is your assessment? We want to know from you. After all, Prime Minister of India is, if a threat comes to him, it's a threat to the country. It's not a threat to an individual, Mr. Modi. It's a threat to the entire country. After all, he is the Prime Minister of the country. So we would like to know your views on the Prime Minister's security. Colonel S. Dini, please.
Thank you, Shri Goel, for inviting me to this show once again. It's a pleasure to be back on your show again. And it's my pleasure to be a part of a panelist of such elite personalities like Dr. Anand Bose sir and Harisena Verma sir. It's really an honor to be part of the same panel. Now, as you mentioned, my views on this, I would like to, bring out my views in the following manner. That first of all, like the last point which you said, what is the threat? How do I perceive it? So I'll explain that what is the threat, how do we define a threat, and then I will also say what is the current scenario in which the country is going. Therefore, the threat becomes even more, better. It's better to easier to understand. And the people who say no, this was just one of those things. He was also he was stopped in Lucknow and Allahabad. I will say what kind of scenarios it could have led to. What all kind of, as far as just the security part of it, what all scenarios could have happened. And definitely I'll also touch upon the lapses part of it, and also the consequences, what consequences this could have led to. So first of all, starting from your point, that what is the threat? Now, when we assess threat of an adversary, like for example, if somebody is a threat to us, he or a country needs to be having two things. One is an intent, and second is a capability. So when you have both intent and the capability, then you say that that is a viable threat. Now, as far as India is concerned, we know that our neighbors, whether it is Pakistan and China, if you see, they have an intent of, one country is purely, based on the destruction of India, that is Pakistan. Their whole soul is based on that. The whole purpose is that. So that intent is always there. Capability, how much of it they have, that is questionable. As far as China is concerned, they may not have an intent of complete destruction of India, but still they don't want India to grow. But yes, they have the capital. So that is why India, Pakistan and China remains a threat to us. Similarly, there are many organizations, there are many terrorist organizations within India which have this threat, because they have an intent of causing harm to the country, and also they have the capability of doing it. We have seen it, and I think Mr. Verma sir would have seen so many of these cases, whether whether it is in Bengal, whether it is anywhere. You always know that these organizations exist enough. So that is the security threat which we have. So there should be no doubt in anybody's mind that a security threat is always there. Now whom are we talking about? We are talking about the Prime Minister of this country, the number one executive officer of this country, duly elected by the people of this country, and he represents, as Anand Bose sir mentioned, 138 crores of people. He may be from a party, but once he becomes a prime minister, he's the prime minister of the entire nation. And also we must understand that this security threat is different for different people. It is different at different time. It is different at different situations. That is why your question also, that how things can change in why is this particular situation different. And so every situation will be different. For example, if the prime minister was in some other state, let's say Madhya Pradesh, his security threat may not have been of that high order. But since he was in Punjab, if he goes to Kashmir, the threat would be different. If he is in Punjab, it would be different. So all these situations also, that threat levels go up and down. That also we must understand. And then let's just quickly analyze that what is the situation in which India is presently in. As far as external things, I've already made a mention that we have two belligerent neighbors who are constantly troubling us along the borders, and that also has a bearing on our internal security. It has a bearing on the on the things which are happening inside India. It has a bearing on the politics of India. It has a bearing on the economic growth of India. All those things also affects us. As far as the internal disturbances are concerned, every day as we speak today, in all the states, and especially states like us in Kerala, we are constantly hearing this internal disturbances happening, both from external funded, from internal, lot of it, whether it is religion based, whether it is political based, left wing extremism and such like things. All these things are happening now. The latest is this Khalistani movement and all, which has been seen. And to the back of it, we have a series of protests which is happening for the last few years. Whether it is the anti-CA bills, whether it is the farmer bills, whether and the farmer bills have we have seen images which probably you are so senior, Mr. Goel, you would have not imagined that somebody would take out the flag from the Red Fort and put some other flag there. Can we ever imagine that such things have happened in India in the past few years? And if you analyze that how these protests are happening, we can know that there's a systematic campaign both through the social media and other ways to instigate people within India to create communal disharmony and make sure that India is boiling always. So I think this is not rocket science. Anybody who is following Indian politics, Indian security aspects, or Indian, anybody who thinks good about India can know that this cannot happen like that. Those protests just don't happen like that. So there is a systematic planning. There is something behind it which makes these things happen. That's how, and that is a different subject, so I'm not touching. But what I'm trying to say is that in today's information warfare area, this is a planned thing which is happening as far as the protest is concerned. Now, in this environment is what happened to Mr. Modi when he was going to Punjab for this particular function of his, and he was stopped there. And as you rightly mentioned, he was stopped in a state, Punjab, which by the way has the highest number of people in the armed forces. They are extremely patriotic, but they also are or a victim of the, of geography, that they have a neighbor in the form of Pakistan, who's constantly pushing in drugs, constantly pushing in criminals. And we have hearing so many news of drone-based, weapons being dropped, drugs being dropped, illicit money and such like things, all this being dropped from the Pakistani side. And Mr. Modi was going towards the border to Hussainiwala, where the national memorial was there. So that situation is the area, the timing was just after this protest of farmers which was happening. And we also know that there has been a series of calls by this so-called Khalistani people of bringing revolution here, killing people, and all those things are happening. And that is the scenario in which he had gone. So both the timing, the place, everything was a very sensitive issue, and therefore this particular breach of security is an extremely serious thing. There is no doubt. It cannot be taken as just one of those things happening anywhere. I will term that even the Dr. Manmohan Singh's that the driver taking to a different direction could be a genuine human error. But here at the outset, prima facie, it doesn't look like just an error. It doesn't look like that. But there are so many actors in this entire fiasco that it's just too difficult to believe that everybody would have made a error of judgment. So it's very difficult. So I still believe once the results of the Judicial Commission comes, maybe somewhere that error of intention, that may come out. I'm not pointing a finger at anybody, but that thing we just cannot rule out. Now, what are the scenarios which could have happened in that bridge for those 20 minutes? Let's just analyze, and then that gravity of the situation also would give. Let's start off from the worst case scenario. Now, army always plans from the worst case scenario. We make plans from the worst case scenario, that okay, this is the worst case scenario, let's make a plan now. Now, the worst case scenario, as I mentioned, that this can be ruled today that this was not a planned conspiracy. This is not a plan. Okay, everybody knows that he will, and people know that Prime Minister will come to Hussainiwala. I am not saying that this is a planned conspiracy. I'm saying that we cannot rule out a conspiracy. Conspiracy need not be that this particular event, but they have been planning for a very long time. As and when they get an opportunity, we'll make best use of it. As Dr. Anand Bose also mentioned about the assassination which led to the World War I. So now let's say if this was a planned conspiracy, his halting for 20 minutes on a bridge was an ideal target as far as anybody who has worked on the counterterrorism or operations and such like things. We don't even stop even for a fraction of a second on the bridges when we operate in Kashmir, because the bridges are the places where it's an easy to put an IED. It's an easy target because you cannot jump off the bridge naturally. So if for a standoff attack using a rocket launcher or something like this, these things it's an ideal target. In other plain areas, the vehicles, and they're trained for it, they can take that evasive action. Here, that the site of that place is a excellent location for an ambush. So that is what I'm doing. So now we also know that there have been, as I mentioned, there have been a lot of drones which have been flying across from Pakistan. So this also comes under the beat of that. I'm not saying that Pakistan Army will use artillery fire or something, which people are, no, nothing like that. Why? Even the non-state actors in Pakistan are beyond the control of the ISI. Now somebody is sitting there, and if over a mobile phone or something, I know that okay, we have a target here now. But just immediately, I'm not. They well could be that drones and all those people are loitering around in that area. They're waiting for a chance. It may not be that Prime Minister Modi itself, but somebody else to create an impact. And a drone could have, even if it had dropped a bomb or something, that kind of thing could also have happened. Now, and who's stopping this human bombs thing? Today we have seen the terrorist organizations walking into with the human bombs and such like this. Those kind of things also could have. These are the worst case scenarios. I'm not saying that this can happen, but these are the worst case scenarios which could have happened. Now, other scenarios, as I mentioned, a fleeting opportunity. What is a fleeting opportunity? People see that, oh, this is the Prime Minister, and there is a backlash against him by at least some people who is trying to instigate. Why not throw a petrol bomb or something? Why not throw some stones over? Now, can you imagine that today India's Prime Minister being attacked by this? And you in between also mentioned, Mr. Goel, that the security forces then should open fire. Now, what would be the impact of opening fire? There would have been many civilians who would have been killed. Then what would have been the impact of that? That could lead into further communal riots all across. What happened after 1984 when Mrs. Indira Gandhi was killed? So the things can cascade into things which you and me cannot even imagine today. So that is the kind of things which are now mob attacks. Like Mr. Verma is here, who's handled so many people. But SPG themselves may not be able to handle so much of a big mob. And for example, if the state police is inefficient, was not sufficiently professional enough. if the whole bunch of people come there, I don't think that even the SPG would be able to handle them. That's what we saw. We see in many of the special forces of the Indian Army, when they themselves have seen what happened in Arunachal and Assam, Nagaland, what happened. So these kind of scenarios can change very fast. So therefore, under this environment is what these are the consequences, or these are scenarios which could have gone wrong. Now, since I know that there is time very less, I'll quickly wind up, Dr. Goel. Now, what are the consequences of this entire thing? Loss of PM is the highest, and we have lost prime ministers. It is not that we are talking something of fiction. Nobody would have ever thought that their own bodyguard would have assassinated Srimati Indira Gandhi. Nobody would have thought that somebody will touch your feet and then you'll just blast up. People are, yes, we know that there is a threat perception. They are likely to be assassinated, but they do things which we can't imagine. So that is like what Mr. Verma said, or what he was mentioning, that we have to prevent them 100 times, and they have to just succeed once. That is the difference. Now, if, like what you mentioned, he is the Prime Minister of India. Now, if a Prime Minister of India, the state is this, what will be the sense of security to a common man? As that concept of nation state and the citizen, there is always a sense of security which the citizen feels towards the state. So what is the sense of security towards common man? And as I mentioned, if things would have gone bad, I'm telling you today, Punjab would have been burning, the entire Sikh community would have been targeted, and there's so much of communal disharmony which could have happened. Now imagine even a stone being thrown at the Prime Minister. The tempers would have risen. And we never know how, like what happened in 1984, things would have really gone bad. Then what is the image of India which has been how does the nation say? Here we are saying that we are a growing superpower, and here we can't even protect our own Prime Minister, right in the center of a bridge, and he's being attacked with stones and such like things, and such, even a physical attack. So that is the image of what will learn. And I'm sure that these are triggers which can triggers leading to the going back to the days of Punjab insurgency days. This is how the things are triggered. So somebody may be there who's nothing to do with the problem. He may get killed. His village may feel it offended, and they will again pick up the gun. So back to the insurgency days is what would. And of course, as I mentioned, the political instability and such like things which could have gone wrong. Now, finally, what are the quick lapses which I feel is the thing? Definitely, as Verma sir was mentioning, that intelligence failure can only be judged once it is confirmed that intelligence was there and the action was not taken. But my point is, how did the central agencies and the state agencies, how did they miss out that these kind of things can happen? If they had given adequate indication, I'm sure the SPG or whosoever takes the decision of finally going through road, and that is the second part, they would have avoided that. Of course, they could not go by chopper because of bad weather. That is understandable. That is a decision which was taken. But the second part, why did the Prime Minister choose to travel those 2 hours by road in a sensitive place, extremely close to the border, when they know that such kind of things can happen? So that who was the decision maker for that? That also is a lapse. Then SPG, I agree with you, Goelji, that probably, as I mentioned, they would have taken this decision. But my thing is that 20 minutes is slightly longer for a person of Prime Minister Modi's or Prime Minister's stature. You can't take a risk for it. The decision has to be immediate. Like what Verma was mentioning, that there would be a pilot who would be 1 or 2 kilometers ahead and they're traveling. How did they miss out that there is a protest here happening? It is not happening that they were suddenly these people jumped into the road. Even then, they are trained for it. The SPG or the people of the armed forces, and he knows it. We are trained for contingencies. We are not trained for everything. If everything was working as per SOP, anybody can do that. We are trained for contingencies. So if the contingency was there, immediately there is a blockade. As you are being a layman, you could understand that why didn't they move out of the bridge immediately? So these are questions which need to be asked. I'm sure it will be addressed. And finally, state police cannot be absolved of their duty. They have failed. There is no doubt. Even anybody understands that the entire sanitization was there, where there was their duty, and they failed to do it. And last but not the least, the whole security breach of the Prime Minister of India has been politicized very badly. Which actually what it does is that it reduces the focus on the security problem or the breach, and then it takes the entire narrative is shifted. That's all I wanted to finish.
Okay.
I've gone slightly fast because of the time.
Thank you very much, Colonel Dini. I understand the time is the limit. 30 seconds only, Vermaji. My only simple question: implementation, carelessness, or intentional? This failure was implementation. Yeah, please. 30 seconds.
First to implementation, it was certainly it was not done properly. Carelessness is certainly there. Intention, it has to come out after the inquiry only. But I will take another 10 seconds also.
Yeah.
There is something called security box, which only are manned by the SPG. In a VVIP carcade, there is a VVIP's car. There may be one spare car. There will be 2 escorts. So then then there will be immediate pilot. So these are 4 or 5. But that pilot will be immediately ahead of the Prime Minister. And there will be a technical vehicle, 5, 6 vehicles called security box or so. So this is only SPG. The other major warning car, advanced warning car, advanced pilot, which goes half kilometer ahead, it's all police. And the whole thing is directed to the police. Who is in charge of the carcade is a police officer. It's the SP who is traveling. So I just want to, I am not saying that SPG doesn't have wrong. They may have mistakes, but this is the picture.
Thank you very much. My last question, 30 seconds, Colonel Dini. Don't you think when our Prime Minister is traveling to the border states, Army should be there in the pilot cars and the Army's role should be there than the state police? What you say about this, Colonel Dini, please?
I will not agree with that state because, we are a constitutionally bound nation. I think the army is required to be in the borders. Once they're in the borders, definitely that protocol takes to our army. Where if he's visiting an army unit,
it's a very, very close to the border, and the condition of our neighbor country.
I know that. See, that's what I said. Because here, even before the army, there is actually border security force which mans the the security here. So army has a specific role, Dr. Shri Goel. So I think the police, with Verma Surrender, and I have worked with police also, JK police and all that. They are professionals, provided they are given that political freedom to work. That is where the intention part comes in. That could be that ill intention, not because of the police. It could be because of the political.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So viewers, you have seen such a serious lapse, not excusable. Whatsoever anyone say, whether the Chief Minister of Punjab is saying or the BJP leaders are saying or Congress leaders are saying, no, there is no party politics in this. This is a lapse, inexcusable. It's a lapse for our own Prime Minister. It's not and it can happen. And as Colonel Dini and Mr. Verma and Dr. Bose have mentioned very, very clearly, those 20 minutes are very crucial. And it can be, after all, we cannot rule out, we have lost 2 prime ministers. We cannot rule out any sabotage. We cannot rule out any ill intention. One has to be very careful. But definitely now the committee formed by the Honorable Supreme Court is going to investigate and truth should come. And I hope that the committee should give the truth and it should make public. So everyone should know what is the truth. But one thing is very clear, whether it's a safety of our Prime Minister or anyone, safety is safety, and our Prime Minister's safety is not his individual safety, it's the safety of the entire country. Thank you very much. And today's program has been live telecasted by V4 News, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarocar News, Bharat Post News, Karu News, as well as to are shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring to you every day a new topic. And tomorrow in media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. The topic is narcissistic personality disorder. And the panelists are Advocate Deo Prakash Singh, Managing Partner, Mars and Mars Legal Advisors LLP Patna, Miss Chaya Kumar, ex-General Entrepreneur and Writer Ahmedabad, and Dr. Shashwat Saxena, Consultant Psychiatrist, Mind Wellness Clinic, Lucknow. So please tune in tomorrow for media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, Mr. M. Harisen Verma, IPS. Thank you very much, Colonel S. Dini. And thank you very much, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, IAS, for giving your clear picture about how the Prime Minister's securities have been kept and what was the lapses. Let's hope the committee appointed by the Honorable Supreme Court will give their inference as early as possible so that the public at large will know the truth. And thank you all the viewers for watching.